So let's go back a little bit because I want to hear some more about working with Love, because you worked on the first three records, right? Helping record the first two and then co-produced the third.
Hmm.
And I mean, I've been going back today and just listening sort of to a few of the things, and those records are so, I mean, obviously Howard's just a genius and the musicianship is great, but even the production style, the way the vocals are doubled and things and go from double to harmony and stuff, but also the energy, like Little Red Book, which is the first song on, I think it's on the one you produced, right? On the first
No,
record?
no, no. It's on the first
On the
album.
first record? I mean, that's a punk song.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
punk and it's 10 years ahead of its time. It's really amazing. What was it like working with them and the sort of the vibe, and did it feel like it was something that innovative when you were doing it?
Well, that's always asked, did you know at the time? I never knew at the time. But Arthur, had the blessing of being with two great poets, Arthur Lee, Jim Morrison. And Arthur was like a cornucopia. It was just flowing all the time out of him. And he had this really wonderful outlook, being a black man in the white world, and he was snarky and all the double and triple entendres. He was terrific, but they came in as a band
Right.
and they performed. I mean, it's all live except for a harmony vocal here and there. And in those days, we built our own 4-track. We took an Ampex 3-track, got a custom made set of heads and a fourth electronic and a cell sync unit.
Right.
I mean, we built the cell sync unit from scratch, and so that we could do, overdub on the fourth channel and double his vocals.
Right. So it was for those records that got
Yeah,
built.
yeah. That album, the Tim Buckley album, the first Doors album were 4-track.
Right. Right. And those are, I mean, all three of those are just iconic records, arguably in very different styles and amazing and still hold up.
Well, it's all about performance too. I mean, these are basically live recordings in the studio, and
Hmm.
they have all that teenage angst. I can say that, and power. I mean, I listen to it and I'm blown away.
Yeah,
Still to this day, the energy behind it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And MC5 the same way, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, just the power and it, I don't know. And, you misremember things and you sort of think things were different than they were, but it feels like revolutionary to be that aggressive and that just out there with everything. Like there's nothing restrained at all about that Love record.
Not at all. Not at all. You got to remember, this was an incredibly productive time musically. Surf music was happening.
Yeah.
Motown was happening. I mean, the radio stations in those days weren't narrowcasting like it is today, where you have just hip hop or just, adult contemporary or whatever. They played everything.
Yeah.
They would play Love, Little Red Book, into an Ella Fitzgerald song, into a novelty song, The Purple People Eater,
Right.
and then go to Frank Sinatra or whatever, or How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? I mean, it was full on. Everybody heard everything.
Yeah.
And I think it was better because everybody got a taste, an understanding of what music was about and the history of music through it. Arthur's a good one. He was a big jazz fanatic, and you really hear it in his singing, especially as you get into the third album, Love Forever Changes. Ooh, ba, ba, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about Love Forever Changes.
Well,
And
should we talk about it right now? Why not?
okay, well, when it came time to do that album, I had just finished Buffalo Springfield, and I'd become quite friendly. And all this goes back, we got to go back to Jack Nucci on this whole thing, because he introduced me. But that's where I met Neil Young. And we came, pretty close. We, liked what each other were doing. And I asked him at the time, I said, would you like to co-produce Love with me? And this is the album. And I think he came to a couple of rehearsals, I can't remember. And then one day he came to me and he said, you know, I've got this fire down below that I've got to do my thing. I've got to do me. And thank you, you know, and he went off. So we couldn't get into Sunset Sound. It wasn't available because the other engineer at Sunset, brilliant engineer, British engineer, Brian Ross Myring.
Mm-hmm.
Look him up. He did Sly and the Family Stone. He did the Stooges. I mean, he did so much of the Disney stuff. The guy was brilliant. I mean, he could do more with the U-47 over a set of drums, one microphone, then it would sound like he was using 5 or 6 microphones.
Wow.
I don't know how he did it, but he was brilliant. Anyway, so we wound up going over to Western Recorders Studio One. We got in there and recorded, I think over a period of 2 days, all the tracks, and recorded live vocals where I could. And I didn't know it, but Benny Goodman was down the hall recording something. And he came in and he's standing there. I looked, there was somebody standing next to me and I went, oh my God, it's Benny Goodman, you know? And he's walking and listening. And he said, that guy knows jazz. And then he left. And
that was it.
It was cool, you know? Because I had heard the good thing. One of the good things about working at Sunset Sound and doing Disney is I could go to Disneyland every night, right. And they always had these Dixieland nights and big band nights. I mean, I saw Basie there. I saw Benny Goodman there.
Wow.
I mean, this is in the '60s. Okay, you know, these guys were getting on in years, and there was a lot of cool things about being at Sunset.
Amazing.
But anyway, then we came back and finished the album at Sunset. I convinced Arthur that we ought to try putting some strings on it. It really lent itself, strings and horns. And went to my mother and I said, do you know of an arranger? And she said, well, there's this young guy that we've been doing a little work for called David Angel. So I called him up and he got together with Arthur, and Arthur sang a lot of lines to him. And the result was the album.
Right.
It was, but there were a lot of sharing in those days. Nobody, because we were not narrowcasting, everybody was basically friends with one another. It wasn't unusual to be recording and Mamas and Papas would show up, or Zappa, or, you know, or Crosby would show up. You know, I mean, people were there,
right,
just showing up and hanging. It was really cool.
Wow. That's great. It's a great record.